Guys, what's going on? My name is Jonathan May. This is Comic Book Cinema, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by my brother-in-law. He is a worship leader at a church, and I've known this guy for a while. And his name is Dacey Swearingen. What's up, Dacey?
How's it going?
Totally didn't let you introduce yourself there.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And
You got
Timothy
it. Great
Watkins,
spiel.
Timothy Watkins is also joining us today. He is a part-time comedian and full-time crunkster.
Yeah, trying my best to at least. I'm on Bang energy drink now, so that's at least 2 or 3 more points to crunking, right?
Yep.
I definitely feel
Please.
crunked out most days.
Can't get enough of the crunkness. So today we're going to discuss the X-Men being brought into the MCU. And how that's going to change things, how we think they're going to handle doing that. You know, we could even possibly get into casting rumors and things of that nature. Right now, this X-Men project is so early on in development. There's literally nothing out there that's factual about this. You know, the only thing that we know for sure, for certain right now, is obviously since 2019 when they acquired Fox, or the rights to the Fox library, basically, they got their X-Men, movies back into the Marvel fold. So we know it's going to be happening. The question still is when and how. So Timothy, if you want to start us off and give us your thoughts and what you think they might do and what you think they should do.
What they shouldn't do, what they definitely shouldn't do is put an actor from the Fox movies into the main Marvel movies and then have it not amount to anything. I'm still salty about that. I'm still salty about that. But that aside, the X-Men coming back, I know everyone's saying Galactus is going to be the next, or like in speculation wise, that Galactus might be the next Thanos, big bad, whatever. But like the X-Men coming into the Marvel universe might be, what phase is this now? 5. So like by phase 7, maybe, because they still have just announced this, right? Like you just said, like there's still, like, we still have no idea who's going to be any of the X-Men, how they're going to come in. So it might be this next phase's Infinity Ward, maybe. Like maybe they'll be the big, because they're like slowly teasing multiverses. Like I've said, we've had a couple cop-outs with like Mysterio and with Quicksilver and WandaVision, but maybe they're just like inching toward it to when phase 7, whatever the next Avengers movie is going to be. That'll be the big event, X-Men coming in. At least I think.
What you think, Dacey?
I think kind of with the Quicksilver thing, I'm still salty there myself, because I wanted it to have a little more. And look, WandaVision was a great show. I think it was very well done. I think for the time that it came out, it was great. But like, I think that was one of those things there where we were hoping for more because of all the theory and the speculation behind it. And then it was like, oh, it's just this guy and his last name's, well,
Ralph Boner.
But yeah, like, it's just like that really, it led us to somewhere, but it kind of led us to nowhere. Like, it kind of was dangling a carrot, if you will. And I hope that it would do something differently, but I think this speculation for me is if they do reprise any of those roles, I could see them potentially reprising roles that for people who are, I guess, more quote unquote money hungry to get into the MCU, the Marvel Studios universe, because they do generate better revenue. But like your mainline characters, I'm not so sure, because a lot of them have said the things about, as far as I'm ready to move on to other things. Hugh Jackman being one, even though he had some interesting what was it, an Instagram or a tweet or something that he did recently that was kind of very interesting. I don't know if that's like a future nod, and maybe, but even if he showed up for 2 seconds, I think that would be, if we had that kind of Ralph Boner moment, I would be totally pleased with that.
He just shows up as a character named Wiener. Like it's just a running joke throughout the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I have a theory about that. Okay, I think that there is still a possibility we could see Hugh Jackman come back, but just come back once in a multiverse scenario, and that's me personally. That's the only way I want to see that dude come back. I do not like Timothy said. I don't want to see them try to bring back Halle Berry or anything from the Fox X-Men universe, because
agreed
all that stuff was basically like ruined, as far as and I'm not a purist in the way that everything has to be just like the comics, but as far as their what's the word I'm looking for, continuity and connectivity and things like that, they just threw it out the window. They was like, screw it. We'll I know this happened in the 70s, and that was supposed to be 50 years ago, but the fact that Cyclops looks the same, or whoever looks the same 30 years later, it doesn't matter. It's cool.
It would be amazing if the X-Men popped up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the explanation was just it was the 70s, man. Mutants were happening, like all kinds of crazy stuff, and now they're just here, man. It's different. I tell
you. they definitely need to start from scratch.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is how you remember in the first X-Men film, really they used the same theme almost in every X-Men movie, but we're these are the mutants and we're the humans, and so now they're not going to have that aspect, you wouldn't think, unless they might could find a way to use the multiverse as a way of bringing in new X-Men as well, like, they were always off on their own, and they maybe could tell some solo stories building up to when they finally come to the current universe, maybe. There's a lot of possibilities there, I think, creatively. The multiverse definitely gave Marvel an easy, convenient way to do things, right? But
well, technically, Disney gave Marvel a convenient way to do things by buying all the rival studios and just being like, yeah, man, it's all the Disney family now. We're going to have Luke Skywalker fight Iron Man in the 18th Avengers movie.
That was definitely a baller move. The rights for the X-Men and some other properties. Deadpool's kind of technically X-Men anyway. Fantastic Four were owned by Fox. So instead of Marvel negotiating or Disney negotiating like, hey, can we buy the rights back to those characters? They just bought the whole studio, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's like instead of making the KFC Taco Bell joint restaurant, Taco Bell's just like, no, I think we're just gonna take the chicken, man. Like, I think Taco Bell's just gonna serve chicken now.
Yep. Yes, indeed. So I don't know, casting wise, I don't really I can't, as far as Wolverine, that's probably one of my favorites. I like Nightcrawler a lot too, but I can't really point to one actor, because all the actors that I can think of, off the top of my head, are probably 40 plus. And someone playing a new Wolverine, I want this to be an unknown actor, someone who's young, maybe not Tom Holland young, but he needs to be in his mid-20s, no older than 30, because this
12-year-old boy.
What is it?
I want him to carry the Wolverine franchise, just have a 10-year-old kid. Appropriate height, we'll just glue some facial hair on him, No, I think it stinks because we're at the point now where we don't know who the up-and-comer actors are, so whoever is going to be cast as the new X-Men is probably going to be a surprise to all of us. Just it's these, in the same breath that we kind of didn't know who Chris Hemsworth was, right? We kind of knew who Chris Evans was because of the other Marvel movies he was in, but still in that same breath of just okay, here's essentially a blank slate for this actor to be Wolverine, Jean Grey, Storm, whoever, it's definitely going to be unknowns, I think.
Yeah, it needs to be. Now, maybe you can take some veterans for Magneto and Professor X, take it's it doesn't even have to be a traditionally bald actor like Bryan Cranston. You could take anybody, shave their head, put them in the in the wheelchair, and that's that's your new Professor X.
Yeah. I think one thing that I would like for them to see is that, a lot of I'll use Star Wars for instance because of like the last trilogy, how like I don't even want to talk about Rise of Skywalker because it was like such a fan service. Like how much can we pack into one thing? And I think for me is that as they begin like bringing in X-Men characters, I would love for them to be participating parts of a bigger franchise already something that's already established, because like, I don't know, I feel like when they've started something to that degree, as far as like if they did a standalone X-Men movie, there's not much context for them to begin with. It's like the universe is already established and now we have X-Men. You get what I'm saying? Kind of like, it'll be interesting to see how they kind of establish the backstory of the Eternals and where they've been for the duration of the MCU. But I would love for them to slowly incorporate those essential characters, and then you could do a standalone movie, because I feel like it would make more sense. It would, but it also give but I think we'll probably begin to see, based off of the way they're doing things. For one, I never expected to see Kang and Loki. And so that's kind of thrown me in a loop for my expectations for what Marvel may do. And so like I could see them begin to work like characters into these Disney Plus shows, and then ultimately do a main franchise release or something like that. But
yeah,
I definitely, as a huge fan of like X-Men, like I just want it to be done right for once. Them and the Fantastic Four, please somebody just do them right once.
Let's make Wolverine more of that wild card character that he is, and let's have Cyclops as the true leader of the X-Men. Somebody you can get behind.
Yeah.
Finally, someone. I'm so sick and tired of Wolverine just like it's almost like the Batman effect. It's like the popular character like hogs up all the characteristics. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Wolverine, he's the wild card and the leader and the love interest, and then you're like, what? Like, you can't be all of those things.
And the person we sent back in time.
Exactly. Let Cyclops be what Cyclops was supposed to be, which is the straight man to Wolverine.
Yep.
And it needs to be a little bit more refined than just Hugh Jackman and the X-Men in the background.
100%.
Agreed.
Like when you look back at X-Men Apocalypse, it's sad that we view it this way, but we almost view it in a lesser light because, that's the one that Wolverine wasn't in. That one wasn't that good.
Exactly.
But it needs to be able to stand on its own two legs without Wolverine, maybe even introduce him in part 2 or part 3,
Well, that shows you how far Fox planned ahead with the X-Men movies. It's just like once they tried a Wolverine less movie, they're like, oh yeah, we really haven't put a lot of thought into any of these other characters, have we? Other than, of course, Charles and Magneto. Like those storylines and those new actors completely killed it, in my opinion.
Honestly, I felt like they put a little too much time on Mystique. I like what they did with Mystique, but I don't know. I want to see more characters get the spotlight, like a Nightcrawler or a Cyclops, maybe even a Colossus. I don't know if you want to use the one from Deadpool or not, but
I'm for it. I'm all for that Colossus, 100%.
Yeah, he's a good Colossus.
Yeah, and Cyclops honestly is one of my favorite X-Men just because of the role he played. Like, no, he wasn't my favorite X-Men because like, oh man, Cyclops with those quick whips, like he's so funny. I just like that he was the stick in the mud because you need that foil to all these, these crazy, like the X-Men are like the most wildly diverse characters in the Marvel catalog. Yeah, exactly. Like before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, X-Men and Spider-Man, those were the only books that were selling because the X-Men were just the better Avengers, just plain and simple. They had superhero sized battles, obviously, but they also had like that soapbox drama. You know, like people were getting into love triangles, and somebody's third cousin made a clone to betray the first, and it's like it's all this crazy stuff that was going on. And the like we've said, you know, earlier, it just got kind of streamlined in the Fox movies to just kind of yeah, they got powers and they battle. Society doesn't get them. It's like okay,
Yeah, they ran that into the
we're gonna
ground.
do Dark Phoenix twice. It's like why?
And they screwed it
no
up
kidding.
both times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's definitely exciting. It's definitely interesting, you know. And the cool thing to me too. And here's another thing, and we'll wrap this up. But I love how when Marvel got those rights back, it's already been 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They were not in a rush to just spit out some crap.
That's the
Absolutely.
They're taking their time. They're like, okay, we got the rights, but you know what we also have is a 5-year game plan. So it's probably going to be 5 years before you see, you know, an X-Men film. They told us that in 2019, and we're like, 5 years? It's already been close to 3. So
I think they learned their lesson from Inhumans.
yeah.
Don't rush it.
No, that's not something you want to rush. That's
Yeah.
crazy too, right? Because Inhumans originally was supposed to be a Marvel movie, and for whatever reason, they ended up making that into a TV show. I don't know what happened there.
There's you know YouTube millions of YouTube video essays of just like all the possible things that went wrong with the Inhumans and stuff. Let's not forget that we get to tell our children this when you know they grow up, and we get to actually sit them down and be like, look, man, there was a time that Marvel was so drunk with power they thought they could just kill the X-Men. Because that's what Inhumans was trying to do. They didn't have the rights at that time. So they're like, okay, who needs the X-Men? We'll do Inhumans. And like, you know, what obviously happened, but it's crazy to think that we're now, you know, Inhumans are gone and the X-Men are back. This is like, yeah, Inhumans, we don't talk about that.
That which we do not speak of.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we'll see what happens. It's exciting to speculate, exciting to talk about it, and who knows? I mean, we might get a Storm standalone movie, or you know, Nightcrawler Disney Plus TV show, something like that. I think would be really, really cool.
I love that.
Heck yeah.
Agreed.
All right, guys. This is Daisy, Jonathan, Timothy Watkins signing off.